Hi guys, welcome to The Bunker. My name's Scott and I'm the host of Check Your Leader TV, and I've been nominated by Gregory Ward to participate in the I Am A Wargamer program. Essentially, the challenge is that I create a short video explaining my involvement or how I got involved in wargaming, why I created my YouTube channel, and any tips or advice that I could give you at the end of that. So without further ado, let's get it on. So let's start with how did I get involved in wargaming? Initially my earliest memories of wargaming is when I was about 5. I was a young lad and my mother brought home one evening a box of Britain's toy soldiers. They were German infantry, and I think they were either British paras or they might have been British commandos. I can't remember, it's been 50 years. And from that point on, I decided I was going to be a soldier. And so I was interested in all things to do with soldiering and military history. And that's basically how I started. There was where I grew up in the Illawarra, which is south of Sydney, in the 70s here in Australia. There wasn't much in the way of wargaming club. Mostly what kids did when I was growing up in the area that I grew up in was we played a lot of sport, and we went to the beach, and as we got older we played a lot of sport and we went to the beach and we chased girls, and so that's what I did. When I was 13, however, I came across a magazine in a newsagent's, and it was military modelling with Battle for Wargamers. And in that I discovered there was all these advertisements for miniature manufacturers in the UK that made miniatures out of metal, which was kind of mind-blowing because what I've been doing is I've been buying Airfix kits. So each fortnight I would get my pocket money, I would fly into town, get myself a packet of Airfix soldiers and maybe a model Airfix tank, something like that. And gradually I built up this massive collection of HO scale, or 1/72nd scale, World War II soldiers and tanks and Napoleonic soldiers and Romans and ancient Britons, and I would play with those soldiers, and just like any kid would, just playing with toy soldiers. But I then discovered sets of rules by going to the library, and also there was a shop in Sydney which was about an hour and a half away from where I lived, called Battlefields. And my sister one weekend took me there. She put me on the back of a motorbike and we went to a suburb called Campsie in Sydney. I got a set of wargame rules called Angriff, and I also bought my first miniatures, which were 6mm Heroic and Ross Napoleonics. And the Napoleonics I played using my own rules that I just made up, and World War II stuff I played using Angriff and modifying those rules. And then when I was 17 I joined the army, and at that point I came into contact with a war games club at my regiment, and then eventually I came into contact with DBM and DBA, those rules systems, and DBR from Wargames Research Group, and I played them for a long time until I then came into contact with a set of rules called Chain of Command, and then finally I found a set of rules that I could play World War II games in that were actually playable and felt right to me as a veteran. So I came into contact with the Two Fat Lardies systems of rules, and also with Rice Press with their rules as well. So we're talking about obviously Chain of Command, I Ain't Been Shot Mum, Sharp Practice 2, Dux Britannianum, and then from Reisowitz Press, Dave Brown's Rules, Pickett's Charge, and General de Armée. And I really enjoyed those rules. They really they sparked a newfound fervor for wargaming. I mean, I was always been interested in wargaming, but I was really, finally I'd found rules that I could really relate to, because these rule systems placed into the system friction in a way that other rule systems had tried to do but had come up short on. So yeah, they were great rule systems. And that's why you'll find on my YouTube channel predominantly things like chain of command games, General de Armée, Sharp Practice, Pickett's Charge, that kind of stuff. Eventually I'm going to get around to putting I Ain't Been Shot Mum games on there, and Infamy once I can get around to doing that. And it also touches on the fact that these games are very narrative, and I always feel like when I'm playing, for example, Chain of Command or Sharp Practice, I'm not so much am I playing against someone, but I'm playing with someone, and which leads into the second question that I'm supposed to address in this video, which is, why did I start making videos, or why did I start my YouTube channel? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. Let's go back a bit. Like I said, I'm a veteran. I did 32 years in the Royal Regiment of Australian Artillery. And that time I went from being a gunner to achieving the rank of Warrant Officer Class 1. And I was a Regimental Sergeant Major. I was an RSM of 3 gun regiments, including an Army Reserve Regiment. I was RSM of the 1st Regiment for a while. I was the Warrant Officer Drill and Ceremonial at the Australian Defence Force Academy, responsible for military customs, traditions, military law instruction, and just discipline issues. And I deployed overseas a fair bit. And after 30 odd years in the Army, and after my final overseas deployment, which was to Afghanistan in 2011, a couple of years after that, in 2013, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and did 8 weeks in a psychiatric ward to help manage that issue. And then I left the Army, and now I had a lot of free time on my hands, and one of the things that can help you manage your post-traumatic stress disorder is a thing they call mindfulness. I never really bought into that stuff that much because there was nothing really, when I was being taught about mindfulness, that really appealed to me. I just thought it was a lot of crap, quite frankly. But essentially what it is it's being able to really focus or pour yourself into something which helps shut out or minimize some of the things that might be going on around you, that cause you to have some problems. I could talk for ages about PTSD, and I think I might have to do it. If anyone's interested, I'll put a comment in there and I'll explain more about PTSD and how it affects veterans. But long story short, my channel gave me something to focus on. It gave me some purpose, and it gave me something that I could really get a hold of. I never, before I made my YouTube channel, I hadn't any experience whatsoever. It was one of those things I just simply went, it can't be that hard. There are lots of people doing it, so I mean, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm no dullard either, so you know, it can't be that hard. And I just dived in, and so I started making videos of the games I was playing. And the thing is that about the two fat lardy rule systems, such as Chain of Command, is they produce very narrative games. And as a consequence of that, I was keen to produce these, play these games, and then share them as you would share a good book with someone. And so that's basically why I created the channel. It's mainly it's a therapeutic thing for me, and now it gives me something to really focus on. I'm 55 years old, which seems to be quite young to be retired, but when you've done 32 years in the military and had multiple deployments overseas on operations, and in a regiment such as the Royal Regiment of Australian Artillery, tell you what, by the time you hit 55, your body sometimes thinks you're about 75. I was also in an airborne artillery unit as well, so jumping out of aeroplanes it will take its toll on you. My knees are shot, my ankles shot. I've got 3 prolapsed discs in my lumbar from a bad parachute accident. I've got the top of my finger blown off. I've got a cervical spine injury from a Land Rover crash. The list goes on. So I generally don't like mixing with the public. So this gives me an opportunity to do something, and I get to mix with those people I want to mix with, and I get to do what I love to do and I have a passion for. So that's why I created Check Your Leader TV. It's just a way for me to, it gives me something to do, something I'm passionate about. I love wargaming, I love military history, and I enjoy sharing a common interest with people. So now the third part of this program, I guess, is hints and tips. Now, I'm not quite sure if these hints and tips are supposed to be in relation to creating a YouTube channel or just wargaming in general. What I will say is, if you want some tips on creating a YouTube channel, my advice is just dive straight in. Everything I've produced so far has been produced on an iPhone. I just downloaded iMovies, which is a really intuitive app. I mean, anyone with half a brain, including me, is able to use it. And then it's just a matter of faffing around on YouTube to make sure you can upload videos, and away you go. And you'll soon learn, how to create pictures in pictures and stuff like that. Pretty much everything that you see on my channels, I do on through the iMovie app, except I might add some what they call, I think it's what they're called, end screens or something like that. At the end of the videos, you'll see links to other videos, and I do that through my PC after I've uploaded. Other than that, my only other advice is, hey, wargaming, ultimately it's a game, and it should be enjoyable, and make sure that you're enjoying yourself playing. If you find that it's becoming difficult, it's like too much like hard work, then step away from it and have a think about what it is that you're doing, and don't get too wrapped around the axles about war games. They are exactly that. They're games, and try to be collegial in when you're playing. Try to have you're participating in a shared experience with someone if you're playing with someone, as opposed to solo. And so it really should be about trying to get a good result, as opposed to not necessarily winning every time. But hey, we're competitive creatures by nature, I think, and so anyone that says that they don't like to win, I think, is stretching the truth a little. But winning's not everything, and so yeah, make sure that you enjoy what you're doing, and remember, it's a war game, it's not reality.
Oh, and I would also recommend that if you can, get your hands on a really understanding and long-suffering wife. That'll make your wargaming experience so much easier. That's all for me, guys. Ubiquay.